Hi guys, 1 in 4 homeowners are unable to sell. Is the property market slowing down? QVT. Okay guys, so 1 in 4 Fife homeowners are unable to sell. Where does that number come from? Is the property market slowing down? We're going to discuss it on this show. So today we've got Perry and we've got Jimmy on the show. How are you guys?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Jim. It's been a very productive day again, which is great.
Geez, aye, you wouldn't be. You're absolutely right. If anybody doesn't know it there, watch out for the top secret properties, because I'll tell you what, we'll give you advance notice of properties that are coming to market way before pre-portals, way before social media, so you can get your ducks in a row and you can get yourself in a position to buy your next dream home. Anyway, let's go into the subject on here. The average time, these are the key statistics here. The average time to find a buyer for a Fife property has reduced from 55 days in the year 2020 to 28 days in 2021. Yet, still, just under 1 in 4 properties and homeowners on the market are still there after 12 weeks. That's actually quite a surprising number because we don't really have that, do we?
No,
It's not something that we see.
Not with our listings. Not right now. Not with the market. I think what I've seen recently with properties that we've listed. Well, I can think of a few right now. The ones that we sold the last couple of weeks. They've all been stuff that's come on in the last couple of weeks as well. So I don't think we really have anything that's sat on the market for that long right now.
Why are so many Fife homeowners still on the market then after all that time, and what does it mean for the Fife property market? You know, Perry, what's your thoughts?
For me, I think there's a couple of things. Either the property's not being marketed properly, and that can come down to how it's presented. It could also come down to target audience. Perhaps that's not being reached. And it can also come down to pricing. Maybe it's not at the right margin.
Yeah. Possibility. So let's go through this then. We've put a post on here anyway to this article, but we're going to discuss it in full detail. If you want to chip in and ask any questions, more than happy to answer your questions live on air. So if you're listening in, please feel free to mention anything. Please feel free to just give us a bit of encouragement to show you're there. We know people are watching. We know you're watching.
It's no secret. We can see you.
Literally, you would have to needed to be living in a cave since the end of lockdown number 1, not to realise that the property market has been on fire in Fife and the whole of the UK for the last 18 to 20 months. It's been very much a seller's market, especially in 2021. Yeah, as we enter the second quarter of 2022, I've noticed a slight rebalancing of the Fife property market, more towards buyers. Something that is good news for everyone, sellers and buyers locally. And, the reason I've noticed that is because when you look at the weekly numbers, for example, this week, there was over 150 properties came onto the Fife market, when typically there's only about 120 on average. And there was only about 90 properties actually went under offer and sold. So there's a huge rebalance there in that week. And we'll be able to see this Sunday as well, if that's going to continue. And it will give us an idea about where we are in terms of the cooling of the market. Is it going to be cooling? Who knows, but it will tell us. So in 2020, it took an average 55 days, as I said, from the Fife property for appearing on the property portals. Now, this is the point it appears on the property portals, so like Rightmove and Zoopla and that, to the property actually going sold, subject to concluded missives. Now, interestingly, when compared to the national average, that's 72 days in 2020. Yet last year, this was reduced to 28 days in Fife, 51 days nationally. So Fife was 28 days, and nationally, it was 51 days. So what's the issue with Fife property? the Fife property market actually been on fire. You know, where's all that come from? I think it's affordability. I think it's a great price point, and I think that's the fundamental difference. Possibly lost these two. Okay, so interesting when compared to the national average of 72 properties. As I said before, national average is 72 properties. So what's the issue with the Fife property market being on fire? Well, that was last year. Things have changed slightly this year since then. Of the properties for sale in Fife itself, 24% of houses have actually been on the market for more than 12 months. That's actually quite a startling statistic as well. 24% of houses in Fife have been on the market for over 12 weeks. So over more than 12 weeks itself. So that's round about 3 months in total, I would say, in terms of the numbers. So it doesn't sound a lot, yet it's an eternity in terms of the market, especially if that many are going as a result of that. So Perry, what's your thoughts on that?
For me, I mean, I think primarily I think there was an influx of people looking to move, wasn't there, after COVID? There was a rush to market. And I think that you saw quite a few people buying really quickly, putting offers over pricing, and, you know, starting to panic about their lifestyle and where it was going to be and moving beside family. But we've seen a bit of a change in that, I feel. And things have calmed down a little bit. People have seen how it's impacted their lives, and the norm is kind of fluxed for them a little bit. So I think buyers are getting very wise too, in regards to where they want to be and what they're willing to pay. And I think sellers now have kind of got confidence, I believe, that the market is still strong. And therefore, I think that's why we saw an influx last week of property coming on. And again, it's down to the tools that your agent will have and how they're going to market your property, what databases they've got. You know, you did a piece yesterday on the top secret element of it, and we talk about our pre-registration. So it really depends on what your agent's got there. And certainly we don't see it slowing down anywhere. We rarely have property that's on long. I think probably the biggest frustration that people coming to us feel is that they get to us and then it's gone. So it's about educating in regards to how they can see it quickly, but not just how they can see it quickly, but also how they can get themselves ready. Because it is kind of a seller's market just now as well. The sellers can be very choosy about what their buyer looks like. So the buyer might have the number, but the buyer might not have the position. So there's a lot of that comes into play as well, I'm finding.
So Jimmy, why are there so many properties on the Fife market still for sale after all this time then? What's your thoughts on that?
I would just reiterate what Perry said, really. It'll come down to a few things. Marketing will be one, but price will be another. I think a lot of sellers right now will hear from their friends rather than the expert. Oh, my house sold for this much. My house sold for this much. This one went for this much down there, and they'll already have a high expectation on the value, and they expect their property to go for that price as well. And unfortunately, someone might have just told them the number that they wanted to hear to get the business, when that might not have been the fight. That might not have been the facts.
So do you think the practice of overvaluing is still going on?
I know it's on, Jim.
It was just a loaded question.
You got a very direct answer.
Yeah, there's so many properties in the market in Fife still for sale after all this time, and it usually comes down to that one thing, doesn't it? Yeah, well,
there's a property, I'm not going to mention where it is or what it is, where I was out to it. I told him where I thought the home report, where I would expect the home report to be and where I thought it would achieve. And he basically said to me, well, I've had an agent quite a lot higher than that on the home report and the number I'm looking to see. And I said, look, this is the evidence. I've sold 2 properties on your street. I'm confident I know where the numbers is. He went with another agent. He thought the high number was the way to go. 2 weeks later, he's had to reduce the price by £30,000 about with a number what I've had to say.
Wow.
So, but if he listed at the price I said, I would hand on heart believe we would have got people through the door at the right number, and he probably would have got closer to the number that he was on the market originally. I think he's going to be accepted a lot.
The difficulty of that is if you're losing the first bite of the cherry, aren't you? Because you're more or less putting your property off the boil, because everybody that's seen it at the overpriced value has actually seen it and they've actually switched off immediately and thought, yeah, it's not really for me. Even if it comes back on, you've lost that initial impact about the first instinct and the first feeling, like curb appeal as well. When you come up to a property and see it for the first time, you just think, wow. And then when you come back for a viewing the next time, that's when you see all the bits you never saw before. And it's kind of similar, isn't it?
Yeah, but I remember when I first joined you, Jim, when the first couple of weeks we went to a Right Move showing in Edinburgh, and one thing always stuck with me there: 50% of your interest comes in the first 2 weeks, and he's reducing his price by £30,000 in the first 2 weeks. So in my opinion, he's only going to go one way now, and that's down.
That almost sounds like a fire sale, the way you say that.
It does. I think as well, not only does it lose that initial impact and impetus when you bring it to the market, but then when people see it come down in price, people then suddenly go, hang on, what's wrong with this house? So you've got this big negative stamp sparked right in the middle of that building now, haven't you, with regards to trying to then get confidence in the marketplace to sell it.
Yeah, somebody immediately thinks within 2 weeks, because it'll tell you on Zoopla and that it's been reduced over the last 2 weeks and where it was newly listed, and then immediately they'll think there's something wrong with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
so just let me explain what overvaluing is before we start on this. So many agents, not ourselves obviously, in 2021 were achieving top prices for Fife properties, and multiple offers being the standard. The property they were selling was only available to buy for days before the owner obtained multiple offers, and were not only a satisfactory level, but they were more than ever they could ever dreamed of. Although this was great news for Fife homeowners, that this caused fewer homes to come onto the market in the last 6 months in Fife, as people were afraid to put their home on the market without actually having a property to buy. With fewer properties coming on the market, some estate agents have become more and more desperate to get a larger slice of the smaller property market, and it is seen as an unwelcome side of a estate agency profession, and it's the estate agency practice of overvaluing. So while overvaluing is nothing new, the custom has generally been limited to a small number of estate agents. Yet now it's become more prevalent and creates a uncountable distress and pressures for some Fife homeowners. Many Fife homeowners are actually then want to sell quickly to get on the property of their dreams. Yet in many cases, when they do put their property on the market, they don't sell quickly enough because of this overvaluing practice, even with the fantastic current property market conditions as they are now. Now, let me just give you an idea of the issue. 50.6% of Fife homes put on the market in the last 30 days have not sold. That's half of the properties put on in the last 30 days have not sold. Now, I'll be honest, that's no our track record, is it? So somebody else is the other side of that even. So that actually really surprises me.
Yeah,
it really surprised me as well. One of the things, we talk about this overvaluing, and interestingly enough, I was part of a training program that we run, and we were listening to a podcast, and the podcast basically were saying that it's about the estate agent owner things, and it was getting to the stage, as you said, rightly so, a year ago when people were overpaying home reports, and estate agents were saying, you've got to pay between 15 and 20% more to get it. And then in 3 months, so they were doing that. And then 3 months later, they were still getting the same response. You're going to have to do 15 and 20. So at what point does the 15 and 20 cease? Or do we just keep doing it? And that's because the estate agent really is in the situation where they're not actually committed. They're either not committed to the true number, or they don't actually understand what the true number is anymore.
I think it's a case that to combat the overvaluing, you've got to really ask them where they got that number from, isn't it? It's like, show me the comparables that suggest to me that the figure you're talking about is exactly the same. But what I mean by comparables, in a simplistic world, if you had two properties exactly the same, then if one sold for 250,000 and you were putting your house on the next day, then the surveyor would come round and say that was worth 250,000 because that basically just sold the day before, and that's the market value, or that's the home report value. So what would happen next out of that is then when it's put on the market, then it would determine the market value. But the market value is determined by how well the estate agency does in terms of their digital presence and also their negotiation skills at the end. And that's where the fundamental added value are added between the estate agents when you choose them. because everybody's going to come in at probably the same home report value. However, I've got to be said that, you know, it still goes on in the practice that some surveyors are actually easily manipulated by their estate agents.
Yeah, Jim, I would just jumping on the back there. This may be a surprise to some people, but I would say a very small part of our job is actually valuing, because that's what a surveyor is there to do.
Yeah.
Our job is to extract as much money as possible from the buyer. That's what people, when people get estate agents out, they shouldn't be looking about the value, because the surveyor will take care of that, and the number will be the number. But they should be choosing on who's going to get their property to the widest audience, who's going to negotiate best and get them best price. Because although these numbers are like that, the difference between negotiating a strong negotiator with a hot buyer and a weak negotiator with a hot buyer is going to be tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands we found on one property between a hot buyer negotiating with two properties overlooking one property in Grail.
Yeah. I mean, there's hundreds of Fife families out there having their dreams dashed by overvaluing. Therefore, let me look at exactly what overvaluing is, why it's on the rise, and most importantly, the harm overvaluing causes to homeowners like yourselves out there. You would think that most important thing in a estate agency is all about finding the best buyer for your home at the best price, who can make the move with the least amount of hassle. And it is, ultimately. To us and many other Fife estate agents, it is as well. Yet some estate agents actually, sales aren't the essential objective. Instead, it's having a vigorous catalogue of properties to sell to generate more future leads. Now, this goes back to one of the biggest estate agency chains I know, and their rule of thumb is for every board that you get up, every for sale board, you should get 2 boards off it. And that's how they think. That's their mentality. And most of the estate agents are actually trained by these people because they were former of that corporate estate agency. So maybe they all think the same anyway as a result of that. But that's what people, that's how they think. It's like for every board they get up, they get 2 boards off it. So they're prepared just to cut their throat in order to get the board, to get the listen, and possibly say anything in the process. So my advice to people out there is actually ask them where they got that number from. Where did they get that valuation from? Was that just out of thin air? Was that just their thoughts? Because their thoughts have to be in concrete, because that's exactly what the surveyor would have to do as well in terms of doing the home report. So he would have to see that. Now, a classic one I went to the other day in London Links, I did top secret property on that. Now, I knew that property was round about the 300,000 mark. And the reason I knew that is because there was one round the corner, was slightly different in terms of style, but it was still the same floor space, still the same type of property, and that sold for the 310 mark. So I knew straight away that was 300,000 or above in terms of the price point. That's where you get your information from, because you work it forward and work it back depending on what you need to do. So, for example, for people out there, if you've got 2 properties the same next door to each other, and one needs a refurb and the other doesn't, and the other one sells for 250,000 and the other one that you put on needs a refurb, then you have to work out how much will it cost for that refurb, the refurbishment, to get that property to the same standard as this property. And then once you work that out, then your home report should be that starting value. So if it costs you £20,000 for a kitchen, a bathroom, and maybe new heating and decoration and carpets, then it would be 230,000 for that property. And that's where the starting point would be. So that's in a simplistic world exactly how a surveyor, in simplistic terms, would actually do the valuation process for your property. And it's what we do anyway, Jimmy, before we go out, isn't it?
Yeah, I would always, well, I would say, of my knowledge, I'm on the market. I'm looking at everything all the time because I want to be the best known agent of knowing what properties are selling for in every area. That's what I want to be. But so I'm knowing what people are selling for. But I'll always double check my opinion when I first hear a street address or something like that. Look on Rightmove what is selling. Look for as much information as I can. Even look on the registers of Scotland, the size of the plots, stuff like that. And I'll always run the number by a surveyor, local one, just to confirm I'm thinking on the right ballpark figure. And then I'll present that information to the seller just to say, this is where I'm thinking. This is what this one sells. This what this will go. This one has this one. Yours don't have that. That's the number. And I will always do that to all my clients. And if If they agree, great. If they don't, then we're going to have a conversation. So I've gone in a bit more detail and explain a few other things why I think it's there.
I think it's almost down to an exact science. I see it as quite a clinical and logical process in terms of how the value comes about for the home report, anyway.
And
do you see that as well, Perry?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, as some people watching may know, I've only been in this industry for a year, and certainly my training with you, Jim, and Jimmy has been very thorough. And there's a lot of work goes into the preparation of understanding what that value is going to be before we even get to the property. Yeah. We look at number of rooms, we look at if it's got outbuildings, we look at if it's got a conservatory, is it open plan living, has it had renovations, is it changed? How much has the current owner invested in the property? Have they changed the layout? So, as you said, that example there of 250, it's not quite the same, because that 250 might be a 3-bed. The one next door might not have been extended and there's only 2. And so there's a clinical number that we work out for lack of bedrooms or more bedrooms or outside space and size of plot, whether it's mid-terrace, end terrace, location. So it really is quite scientific.
Well, it makes absolute sense then, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm quite pleased to say actually now that when I send them to you that I'm normally quite spot on, so I'm quite chuffed with that.
So getting back to this process of overvaluing then, I mean, there's very few estate agents who'll actually do it, but it is essentially driven to get numerous properties onto the market, regardless of the price set, in order to get the next generation and the next future lead for them. So deprived of endless number of new properties for sale, the inquiries estate agents receive will significantly drop as a result, because there's less properties coming on the market, leaving them high and dry without a buyer or a seller leads, and it is their lifeblood, as I said. Therefore, some, not all the estate agents, will feed on a homeowner's appetite to get the highest possible price for their Fife home by giving them an overinflated suggested asking price to market their property, i.e. they're overvaluing. If one estate agent can get you an extra £30,000 for your Fife home, will you take it or won't you? The suggestion of pushing the asking price of your Fife home for 10%, 15%, 20% could be seen by many as a temptation too good to miss in that process. Yet, once you're on the market, the agent is trained to slowly get you to reduce the asking price over a lengthy sole agency agreement. They'll lock you into the sole agency agreement. Now, we don't do that to people, but I do know that some estate agents actually lock you in for 3 months. So you're locked in for 3 months regardless. So if they do overvalue and they get a surveyor to agree with them, there is surveyors outside of this area that do that and agree with them, because they don't know the area anyway. So they're relying on the estate agent giving them that information. They then value it, and then they lock them into a 3-month exit, sole agency agreement. They can't get out for 3 months. So therefore, what they do is they just batter them down in the price over a period of time, or you're stuck where you are. So the problem is that the home of your dreams might have sold by that time, and you've reduced your price in that 3 months in order to get it, but you've actually lost it as a result. Also, Which the magazine actually reports in 2017 and 2019 proved you ended up getting less for your home when it did eventually sell, which means you actually lose money. And finally, the agent knows homeowners perceive it as a hassle to swap agents, so which it isn't really. So they actually think it's a hassle to swap agents, and they expect you as a homeowner to think it's a hassle to swap agents, but it's not actually a hassle at all. It's pretty straightforward. I've done it before loads of times. I remember in the credit crunch when I was doing this, people were going in their droves. They were going, "There's no selling my house. I need to swap agents." And I'm going, "What's it going to take?" And I went, "It's no bother. All you need to do is I'll get in, do photographs, descriptions. We'll get all that done, get all that put together. Your home report's in place already. So what you need to do is the day you give them notice right now, and the day that I'm actually ready to list it, you take it off the market with them, and it goes on new with me. And it's marketed completely different in the process. And often that makes a fundamental difference. It's like it's come on for the first time because it's come on with another agent.
100%, and we've done that. One that sticks with me is we had one in Cooper not so long ago. She was getting battered down on price. But I actually believe the price point was good when I looked at the sales. So I said, look, I think the price point is right. I think they're not doing you any justice here. Let's take it on. And when we got it on, we sold it 7,500 over the home report. So,
wow.
I remember,
So this was one you took off another agent then, Jimmy?
Yeah, I remember that one because that was when it always sticks in my mind because that was the first one I ever took off another agent. And I've recently just done that again in Glen Office of another agent. It wasn't going anywhere, but 2 weeks later we sold it at closing date and we had 2 offers, £12,000 more than another agent had it on the market.
You got a huge amount of people through the door there. You got about 20 viewers out of that, and yet the other agent had theirs on for 3 months and couldn't get anywhere with it.
Yeah, so, but yeah, it's there's a lot to be said.
What do you think that? Just curiosity. What do you think that's down to? Why do you think that is? How do you think that's possible? Because in a real world, I'll be sitting and thinking to myself, well, surely we're all the same. Surely, you all list on Rightmove, you all list on Prime Location, you all list on Zoopla. So why would you be any different in terms of your results to another agent? How would that be possible, Jimmy?
Oh, I think we've lost Jimmy.
And he's frozen again.
I think we've lost him.
So let's talk about that then. He'll come back to us in a minute. I'll take him off the now. So let's talk about that. But estate agents only get paid when they sell the house. So why would they overvalue in the first place? But would it surprise you that some estate agency chains pay their staff commission when they put their property onto the market? Now, I actually saw this the other day. This was quite an interesting one, Perry. Now, I only see this because it pops up now and again, and you see it on LinkedIn and stuff like that, where it pops up and you see a job advert, and it had things like on-track earnings. So we had on-track earnings, and I thought, wait a minute, their on-track earnings, which is what you could make with commission, was our basic starting point almost. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, there's something wrong with that. That's an estate agency chain. But what they're doing is they put their base rate a lot lower, and they rely on them getting appointments and actually getting viewings and getting offers and also listing properties to make money in order to get their bonuses, to get them up to the on-track earnings. So would I suggest then it wouldn't be a surprise to you that if there's paid commission to put your property on the market, even when it doesn't sell, would it be a temptation for them to actually overvalue to get your property on?
Yeah, absolutely it would, because instantly if a seller's got 3 agents coming out and that particular agent is the top priced agent, the seller is going to think, actually, gosh, they're going to get me a really good deal, so why would I not go with them? Yeah. And what that then does is secure them the board, as you said earlier on. And so they throw, they secure the board, but they also secure the commission. And certainly that's not how we work. We're not structured that way. We're not rewarded that way. Our reward is basically working for our clients to get them the dream that they are looking to achieve. That's what we do. It's very, very different. And we do this because we're passionate about it. It's the ethos of our business, and it's making people find their happy place, isn't it? That's how we work. We don't operate in that kind of fashion, but it does happen.
Yeah, this is why I've never seen the impetus to put in that sort of system, because I do believe it encourages people to, not be entirely factual with the truth.
I think that you can be, there's an integrity thing there, Jim, isn't there?
Yeah, and they often think about their own means rather than actually the customers. So that's kind of how I look at it, and that's why I've never wanted to do that sort of system for that reason. I mean, over the last 18 months with the rising property market, there was undoubtedly been a valid reason for pushing the envelope on the asking price itself. Yet, if every house like yours is on the market or sold subject to contract at 300 to 320,000, yours is going to achieve 355,000, let alone 375,000, even in this market. So with 50.6% Fife Homes still on sale for after a month, the market is starting to level out. And if you're keen to sell, then possibly it's maybe time to get advice from other people. Yeah,
I would agree. I think you need to get not just advice from other people, but get your advice from the right source.
Yeah, I mean, Rightmove actually and Zoopla say that research has actually shown if the initial asking price is initially set too high, it can be ignored by people actually surfing Rightmove and Zoopla themselves. So it's a well-known statistic for them. They actually think that could be. I mean, come on, be honest. You've done it yourself, haven't you, really? When you look at some prices and you just go, I'm not interested. Not interested at that level. I do it myself as well. I look at loads and loads of properties for investment purposes, and immediately I see the numbers on the right, I just switch off straight away, because it makes no sense for me. So I think that is a common practice for some people to actually keep doing, and especially with transactions, the number of transactions being so low just now. Because remember, we make money based on the number of properties we sell, not the price we sell them for, if that makes sense. So most estate agents make money on the transactions. They don't make money on the price.
No.
So they want to encourage to get as many transactions on as possible in order to keep going. So some agents actually rely solely on volume, which means that they've got to put a lot of properties through in order to get that. So they're obviously going to do everything under the sun in order to get the most on possible to keep them going, because all their infrastructure is actually based on volume.
Yeah, it's all multiples, isn't it?
Yeah. When the property market was eventually reduced, because there's a stigma of, so that when the property is actually eventually reduced, it has a stigma of being on the property market too long, begging the question from potential buyers that there may be a problem with the property. There's a classic example of the price drop, 30,000 in 2 weeks. Hence, and no interest as a result because of that. Because people then say there must be something wrong. I'm not going to look at this anymore. And the person that would have jumped in the beginning might have been the person that would have paid the most money.
100%.
Absolutely. But we see it, Jim, not just with a property not selling or a price reduction. Sometimes we have it, and other agents will have it as well. You know, sometimes it does happen where you sell a property, and we've given advice on this in the past. You know, the property gets sold subject to concluding missives. It sits sold for 3 months. We're getting to the point where it's ready to exchange, and something may change in the buyer's position, and so the buyer then can't proceed, and then we relist it, and then there might be a second person waiting to get a second bite at the cherry, or there isn't, and then new people have to be coming through the door. And 9 times out of 10, the first thing that those new people will ask me is, why is it not sold? Because they see when it was originally listed and they think that it's been on all that time and nothing has ever happened with it. So again, it's about how you educate the audience and the viewers in regards to what is occurring with a property, and be confident and knowledgeable about what you're doing, and be factual as well, and trustworthy. It comes across that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is also the other perception from a buyer's point of view, that the longer it stays in the market, the more it will go down in price.
Yeah.
And yet that's not been the case for us, because we don't accept that. We don't accept that. No, we'd never accept that, and we've never fallen foul of that, because we understand that process. Just because it's on longer, what it does mean, the longer your house is in the market, means that the buyer's not in that market at that particular point in time. However, it's unlikely it could be at this point in time, because there is an abundance of buyers in the marketplace. According to Rightmove and Zoopla, they say there's double than what there was ever before. So you've got to make sure it will sell. It will sell at the right price, and it's correctly priced from day one as a result. And you remember these 2 reports we talked about from Which in 2017, 2019, where I actually said that. Of course, on the other hand, though, setting the asking price below its market value means potentially you leave money on the table. Hence the need for a really good agent that actually negotiates well as a result of that. So putting your home on or buy-to-let investment up for sale at the right price from the beginning is key in this process, to selling within the best time frame for the best price to a serious and motivated buyer and seller, buyer as a result. So, you know, so what would be your advice on the next steps then for somebody to do, Perry?
For me, I think the next steps are that potential buyer needs to be in the right place. They need to be ready to go. They need to understand what their commitments are and what they are looking for in regards to a property, and the money that they're willing to pay for a property. For a seller, you know, you did the piece yesterday on the top secret thing, Jim. You know, as Rightmove said, you know, there's twice as many buyers as sellers out there at the moment. So we have a system here whereby we've got buyers already registered with us. So as soon as we know that there's property coming in on an area, potentially, we're matching them with it already. And we have to match them with it with an understanding of what the property is coming on it. So that's where you have to be realistic and understand the property. So i.e. what is the property and how much is that property going to come in at as regards to the home report value. And also, we've got the qualified buyers who are sitting there, that we understand the positions and that they are willing to pay what is needed to pay to achieve that. And we're matching the 2 things together before anything else even happens. So both parties really need to be ready and in that position to be strong. I think sellers at the moment as well, we're starting to see more property come to market. And I think sellers now are starting to get a bit more confidence in how people manage the property, i.e. ourselves, in regards to how we do it, with this whole I'm going to be homeless piece, and it's making sure that we really understand that, and that we market to the buyers, so the buyer is aware of what our seller's position is. We've done deals in the last week where our seller hasn't found a property yet, but people have still bought it and are willing to be flexible with them. So it's about getting yourself in that position and being ready, and having a trusted partner, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree. What about yourself, Jimmy? What would you say is the best advice for a buyer out there and a seller?
For a seller, being on the market would always help. A lot of people don't want to sell before they find a property, but first of all, get an agent out to give you a value, confirm that.
I think it's a case of getting a handful of estate agents out to give you a value, though. I mean, not just relying on one person. I think that's the most thing, and ask them to back up any valuation in the process, isn't it? Like we've discussed.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of people, even sellers, even themselves, there is some information that they can get themselves just by going on Rightmove, house prices, sold house prices. They can type in their street and do a little bit of research themselves to know where the ballpark figure is. I don't believe that anybody doesn't know whereabouts their house is valued, if I'm being honest.
And that's right here, isn't it? So we're showing it right here. So you can go into Rightmove and you just go into under house prices and go to sold house prices.
Correct.
And then you can just type in your street or your postcode. So we could type in East Links. Maybe there'll not be much coming up on East Links and leaving. And list view. And then it starts to tell you what's been sold. So January 2020, a 3-bedroom in East Links, semi-detached, sold for 160,000. You can go on that and you can actually look at some of the pictures to see what condition that was in. So you can go through these pictures. You see all that okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as a seller, you can go through all these pictures. You can get an indication of what that looks like in comparison to yours. And then you can look at their floor plan as well and look at what the floor plan was like to see if that's similar to yours. And if it is similar to yours, then when you think about the logic of this and you go back to saying, well, a year ago or 2 years ago almost, that was sold for 160. Okay. Now, in the last year, property prices in Fife on average have gone up 16%, but the year before that, they've probably gone up about 5%. So when you look at that, you could take your calculator out and then you can just say, I tell you what, 160,000 multiplied by 1.2, because that's about 20%. That house today should be round about the 200,000 mark in terms of the value. And then what you do is you can go on to buy property for sale, and then you can go into leave-in and Fife and click on that, and then you could start your search and you can go to your price range, which is round about what you'd said, about 200,000, and see what 150 to 200,000 gets you, and that gives you an idea. See how I'm clicking the include under offer and sold?
Yep.
Yeah, that gives you an idea of what's been sold at that level. Okay, so then you compare yours. Okay, this is what you're getting for 170,000, and you can click on that. Now that was listed. See, look, there you go. Oh, that's been sold. Sorry, that's been sold. So that's been sold.
That's only recently, though.
Yep. So that's been sold recently at 170. And there's another one being sold at 170. There's another one sold at 170 because I included them because that gives you a good idea of what's selling and what price they're selling for. There's another one, and there's 154. There's 150, 150. See the price decreases over time. It tells you. I've got a wee widget. It actually tells me that. You don't get that information I've got a widget. It tells me when it was reduced and how much it was reduced by. But that tells you a rough idea of what's been sold between that level and on that period of time. So we've got one there sold as well. So Mans Park, classic example. So if you had one in the Mans Park area, you'd be able to click on that and you'd be able to look through these photographs, and that would give you a rough idea. Okay, if that's sold for 170 and that's still on the market, so that's waiting to go over the line. Now, incidentally, it's probably sold for more than 170, but it gives you a good idea of what sold for 170 in that process. Now, you do a video in there, Jimmy, which is a walkthrough as well, which people can see as a result. So that there's a video you can click on there. Rightmove doesn't work very well with videos for some reason. They've got wee problems with all over for it. See, it's got a YouTube video in there. See, Rightmove is no great for that at all, eh? No, I'm not a big fan when Rightmove put things on. It shows they've still got a lot to learn. If you click on the floor plan though, you see what you're getting for your money in that process. Now, if you think your property is far superior compared to that one at 170, then yes, that 190 to 200,000 is probably the value where it should be. And that's a classic example of how you can do that and how you can see where that value is. So you could do your own research as a seller out there. And when your estate agent comes up to actually look at the value, he should be doing exactly, or he or she should be doing exactly the same thing as you're doing, because this is what we are doing. And that's what the surveyor does as well. They have a wee bit more insight because they have some comparables of properties that haven't actually been to the market, but they've been out to do the home report because they've been private sales possibly. So they've got a good insight as well, and that's where the surveyor can back you up. But as a seller out there, this is the precursor you can do to looking at your own value to see where that valuation is going to come in about. That's how cold hard comparables of similar properties to yours is where you should be, what you should be looking for when an estate agent walks in the door. When they talk about the valuation, it's qualifying them about where did you get that value from? Where did that come from? Was that property sold, and what did they get for the property? It's easy to say, see that one there, Romance Park. Well, you could walk in with that and say, well, your property is around about 170,000 if you've got one next door to that one. Yes. But the reality is, it's what that went for though. So your home report would be 170,000. What the surveyor would be doing would be phoning that estate agent and going, what did that property go for? And that gives them a good indication about where the market value is. And that would be their new home report value as a result of that. So that could be a huge uplift in terms of where that 170,000 is. So again, we're coming back to saying it's all about experience and understanding where that number is and making sure that you fall in line with that number and where that comes from, and not just going, I think it's that price.
You're right, though, and it goes back to the example that Jimmy gave earlier on with the £30,000 difference where other agents had different viewpoints. If an agent's coming out and they're not displaying to you how they have come to that number because they've got those comparables and they've got that dossier basically on properties in your area, then as a seller, I'd be thinking, well, hang on, where's this come from? Where's your fact? I would be more trusting the person that's come well prepared, who can show me those comparables, that agent does actually understand that marketplace.
On that one there, I sold two on the street as well, so I knew the value.
Yeah, so you were quite confident about that. The numbers. And again, that's down to track record and experience and understanding that. But more importantly as well, it's understanding as well when the estate agent walks in the door. The first thing I should be asking them is not how many properties you've sold. It's how much more have you got for that property than the home report value. That's what I would be asking them. So it's, where did you get that valuation from? And then that'll be the home report value, because you know that valuation is the home report value. Then the next question is, how much more do you achieve on average, more than the home report value in this area for these types of properties? And that will give you a good indication about what the market value should be. So what the end result should be based on what they've achieved previously. That's the key here to get to understand these two numbers, the home report value, the end result. And you could be somewhere possibly in between when it ends up there, or possibly you might be a lot more than what the end result is in terms of what they normally achieve. Depending on what estate agent you've got, really, it comes down to, again, the two things we excel in. Nobody gets us to sell their property in terms of putting their house on the market. Anybody can do that. You know, cheap as chips can do that. But what people buy us for, and I know that, is digital marketing and also the negotiation. And probably the classic example is the other day, Jimmy, when I walked in to see somebody, I said, why am I sitting here and I'm the only person in the door? They said, well, you're the only person that's managed to get more money to us for the property ever. We've always paid the price we wanted for every single property in the past. And you're the only people that have managed to get more than what we wanted to pay for a property. And that's why you're sitting right in front of me right now. And I think, to me, that's the testimony to everything, isn't it?
Yeah, job done.
She sees the added value there. She knows the end result is going to pay dividends to her in the end, and she knows that's going to be more money in her pocket at the end as well.
But why is it possible that, you know, two houses could go on the same? Look at Garbridge, classic example, Old St Andrews Road. We put ours on after the same exact. No, that was the exact same property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We put ours on after they put theirs on next door, the exact same properties, We sold ours within 3 weeks for a record price, and they were still on the market for the next 6 months.
Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree with you. But the next door wasn't. I don't like to badmouth agents, but you can't compare our marketing with theirs. It's just not possible.
But then that's what I say. Are all estate agents the same then? That comes back to that question. That can't be right. And I'm not trying to. This isn't a ruse for us. It's the very fact that I still ask that question to myself. How on earth is it possible to get that price, and yet next door didn't get that price? It's exactly the same property.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone recently actually, and I just told them we were discussing pricing and fees and all that sort of stuff. I said, look, if every estate agent was going to get the same end result, there would only be one estate agent, and they'll be charging the same price for everybody. But that's just not the case.
You'd be putting on the same all the time.
So that's not the case. So,
but it is probably. I mean, it's digital marketing, it's negotiation, but it's also availability, isn't it? I mean, if you're not available at night to answer the phone, because that's when most people are back home at work, or you're not available at the weekends to answer the phone, then you're goosed. If you get an answer machine, what happens with an answer machine? Click. I lose the will to live when I get an answer machine, I'll be honest. If you've not got leave a message after the tone and that is it, and you go into a big spiel about what you're saying to me, I've just switched off and I'm just putting the phone down. That's how I work. I don't know if anybody else out there thinks like that, but I'm completely impatient, as everybody will know.
But like,
no comment.
I've got one of those. I've got a testimonial on our Esther comments about a lady that sold with us in Anstruther that said that I was working my work. I worked and I can't answer the phone during working hours, and Jimmy was there to speak to me every evening to talk me through it and keep me updated. And I'd done a deal 2 days ago on Skeeth Road off market at 8:30 at night. Surprisingly, I got a solicitor at 8:30 at night on an email, but I got a deal done. That my client was on holiday in Spain for his birthday, but managed to get a deal done off market, and everybody's happy.
Thank you, Sheila. Really appreciate that. Marketing is the key, and you guys blew me away when I first saw the way you market. It matches my ethos exactly. So unless others up their game, you're always going to win. I kind of get red in the face when I say that. It's like, thanks very much for that, Sheila. I really appreciate that. But it is something like that, isn't it? It's the very fact that it is down to answering the phone after hours. It is down to digital marketing. It is down to retargeting technology you're using from social media platforms. It is when you're on here and you're playing your game on here, we get an advert in the middle of your game when you're playing it. Wordle's a classic example. Somebody said to me the other day, a solicitor actually, I had an ex-solicitor, a partner, an agent, solicitors, sent me a message and said, I saw your advert coming up halfway between my Wordle when I was playing. Says, what are you doing? And I immediately said to them, you're obviously thinking of selling, aren't you? And they went, yeah, how did you know? Aye, exactly. How did you know? How did you know to put that advert there? It's retargeting technology, isn't it? It's using data points that are actually gathered as a result of you giving away your information, and we use that to get back in front of the right people. So it's more quality rather than quantity.
100%.
Yeah, Dave's actually made a good point. Thank you very much for that comment, Dave. Fife Property's way of working simply reduces the anxiety involved in the process, and absolutely. Thanks very much for that, Dave. I appreciate your thoughts on there. It's so. What are our final thoughts on this? What could you advise somebody out there? It is. We have 1 in 4 Fife homeowners unable to sell because of overvaluing. Okay, it's taken a wee bit longer for people to sell. We've just shown you or demonstrated that 50.6% of Fife homes put on the market in the last 30 days have not sold, according to the website statistics. That's over half of the properties going on now have not sold in the last 30 days, considering we're actually saying that most properties in Fife are selling within 28 days. So now the tide's beginning to turn a bit. We're not seeing that in our stats. This is the average stats overall. So someone else has got to be way beyond that number of days then, if that's the case, because we're below that. So what's your final thoughts on this that you'd advise for people, Perry?
I think for me, the final thoughts is if you're selling, definitely do your homework. Get yourself as prepared as you can be. Work with dependable, trustworthy agents that have got good experience and proven track records. It's fantastic that Sheila and Dave have given us some comments on there, because that's testament to how we work, and it is the ethos that runs through the whole company. We're not a transactional business. So I think for me, it's certainly for sellers, get yourself in that strong position, understand who's coming out with you, go with a trusted advisor, and be prepared. And actually, even if it turns out that you don't choose ourselves, we're always here to give advice and guidance anyway. That this is not about us securing your business every time. It's about us helping you. And a lot of our social media is around that way, isn't it? Our social media is about helping others. The top secret thing sometimes is about helping others as well, because it's coming to market, might not necessarily come with us, but it's about, we're there for our community, and we would like our community to trust us and do their homework if they need to, and if they need help with that homework.
I mean, I like the idea of the top secret now, and that's a good thing. We're going to adopt it, and it's like what you say. It is give people an advance notice that this property will come to the market. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean to say it's going to come to the market with us, but it will come to the market at some point in time with another agent, if that's the case. Mm-hmm. So you need to get your ducks in a row in order to make sure you're in a position to do something about it, because the one that we talk about in the top secret could be your dream home. Probably that one in London Links is a classic example, and then the other one as well I'm about to talk about in St Monans. Probably in the next half an hour, and that's going to come to market probably in the next 6 months or so, but that's a different proposition, and people will be out there saying that fits perfectly with my timeline. So that'll be a really good one for other people as well. So we want to talk more and more and get people in a better position to actually make that decision, rather than actually waiting until the last minute and having to rush to things. And it's like what Dave says about the anxiety issues. It's the fact that the anxiety and the pressure it puts on people as a result of having to rush to the market to get their house in the market, to get this other property, because they've just seen it go on with another agent. It's just overwhelming for a lot of people. And some as a result won't make that decision to put their house in the market for that reason. They won't be in a position to make an offer, but for that reason as well.
Yeah.
What's your advice, Jimmy? Just finalising on this.
Yeah, I would just back up what Perry said, really, regarding if you're thinking of selling, get a few agents out, get them to demonstrate why the value is where it is, ask some questions about what their results they're achieving and how they can take the stress off you, if it's anxiety, if you're nervous about selling, etc. And if you have been on the market for a while, speak to somebody else. Doesn't have to be us, but speak to somebody else.
I love that. You know the best advice I say, if you have been in the market for a while, longer than you expected, and you're not very sure you're about your agent, speak to another agent and tell your agent you're about to speak to another agent. It's amazing. It puts a rocket up their backside. And honestly, you'll be amazed that they'll jump through hoops for you to try and get that person before you leave them. That's exactly what happens every single time. It's the first thing I say to everybody, and they're like, what you tell me that for? Just wanting to get my listing? And I'm like, no, I'm more interested in selling your house to get you the next house that you're wanting. So this is the advice I'm giving you right now to do with your existing agent. So it really does get them motivated to do something about it because you're about to leave them. And often it's worked out that they've actually, as a result, they've managed to do it. Because I just tell them you're speaking to Jim at Fife Properties, and that just sends a alarm bell through them. And they know fine that they're going to leave and they're going to come to me. Therefore, it motivates them to get their house sold with them the now. And they come back and say, thanks very much, I've got my house sold. Can't believe it. And then I just go, yeah, hey, I've sold another one with another agent.
I remember one in Strathclyde did that, Jim, with us. Literally, we're going out to sign the paperwork up, and the next day, come to us, and then all of a sudden in 24 hours, they had 2 offers from 2 different people. It's just like it was magic. Like they just come out.
And for me, that's what counts for me. I mean, a lot of people would say, but you're in business to make money. It's like, it's fine. If it gets you the job done, the object of my exercise is to make things happen for you. It's the classic example, our tagline, helping you manage life as it happens. As a result, if we do that extremely well, if you're with us, we'll get paid as a result, as a byproduct of what we do. It's not the other way around, where we want the money and then we'll sell your house. It's a totally different ethos in how in terms of how we think. So that's why we come back to about the commission structure. And I don't think it's incentivized. It's incentivized to get people to make money within the business, but not money necessarily for the seller. That's how I see it, and I'm not for that at all as a result of that. So we're no keen on doing that and taking that model on from other estate agents. And there's only one thing, and the final thing I would say, there's only one thing you take away from what we're saying here. It's search the portals, right? Rightmove and Zoopla particularly, because they've got all the listings for comparables to make sure in that process that you include under offer and sold properties, as it will triple your comparable evidence for you to know where you are in terms of your house price. You don't really need an estate agent to come out. You can also go into our instant valuation tool on our website as well, which actually gives you 30 seconds. You've got an instant valuation, and that could possibly back up what you've just seen as the comparables on the estate agents' websites, and also the sold properties have actually sold before. So that's by doing your homework and then working with a dependable, trustworthy estate agent, an experienced estate agent, I've got to say, who will help you ensure that your property is on the market and get you the right price, the right homeowner, the best person from day one without overcooking it, so you don't lose out and you'll just be fine in the process. If that's how you think and that's what your thoughts are, please feel free to give us a big thumbs up, put a 5 in the comments or something like that. You know, just to say us you're on board, you understand, you're thinking, and all the rest of it. It'll just give us reassurance that we're actually going in the right direction. But I think people understand me, because hopefully Perry and Jimmy, you understand what I'm saying as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect, and that's it, guys. So look forward to seeing you 9:30 Saturday morning. Richard Cook will be doing his lettings show on Saturday morning. So if it's property investment and it's lettings and rentals you're looking for, and it's advice on that as well, Richard's doing his Saturday morning show at 9:30 this Saturday. And until next time, guys, it's bye-bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Or should we say, it's bye from you.
And it's goodbye from him.
See, you've got to point in the other direction. Point in the other direction. Bye from us, because we're back to front, aren't we?
We are.
And it's bye from him down here.